Welcome back to Sports the Nemo Way. This is Alex returning to defend my pick of Vince Carter along with Ray, who also included him on his list. I have Vince at 47 on my list, and Ray has him at 45. So again, very similar rankings. So let's get this started on his career so we can make our case. The 6'6", 220-pound shooting guard who played for the Toronto Raptors, New Jersey Nets, Orlando Magic, Phoenix Suns, Dallas Mavericks, Memphis Grizzlies, Sacramento Kings, and Atlanta Hawks. That was a mouthful. He is a zero-time champ, zero-time MVP, an 8-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA, a Rookie of the Year winner, and 22 years in the league after being drafted 5th overall, with career averages of 16, 4, and 3 on 43% shooting. Now I'm going to kick it over to Ray to get us started.
All right. So we have two expansion teams. Let's go back in time here. We have two expansion teams. We have the Vancouver Grizzlies and we have the Toronto Raptors.
Hold on, just 1 second. Drew, did you know the Grizzlies played in Vancouver?
I did.
Okay. Go on, Ray.
All right. And the big names back then for Vancouver was a man called Big Country,
Brian Reeves.
Brian Reeves, and that was their big star. And then we turn it over to Toronto, and then their big star was Vince Carter. Now, we all know Canada is not known for basketball whatsoever. So, why would Canada give a shit about basketball? I give you two names. Vince Carter. He made a country give a crap about a game of basketball, which they never thought they would ever give a crap about. The guy brought excitement to the game, brought a highlight reel of excitement. This dude could dunk over, anybody.
Just look at your center list, and he probably dunked on him.
Yeah. You could go down the stat list. Let's see. 10 years of his career was great. His scoring was, pretty phenomenal. You can't touch his scoring, really. His assists were really on point, actually, for being a shooting guard. I really don't know what to say about it. He was a really exciting player.
Super exciting. Let me take over for a minute, Ray.
Okay.
I'm gonna pitch in here. Vince Carter went 11 straight years averaging 20 points a game. That makes him in very elite company on our shooting guard list. Only a couple of guys were able to do that. He did that 11 straight years. Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, and Pistol Pete didn't even do that. Have that total in their careers. Didn't even average 20 11 times in their career. And he's 22nd all time in scoring. That's 4th among shooting guards. Vince is 6th all time in 3-pointers made. Out of all of our shooting guards, only Jordan, Kobe, and Drexler had more rebounds than Vince. He's also 76th all time in assists, 6th among shooting guards. Vince is 45th all time in steals, 5th among shooting guards. Vince has that rare offensive look to his game. If I say the words Vince Carter or the names Vince Carter, I'm sure just like me, everybody thinks dunks. Probably most people, including myself, think he's the greatest dunker of all time. But the big difference here is Vince Carter was an elite off-ball shooter. He shot over 40% from 3 4 times in his career. But his spot-up shooting on 3 was very good. Not just his off-the-dribble stuff. Being 6th all-time and made threes, like I mentioned earlier. Only Miller and Allen on our shooting guard list can touch him in the 3-pointers. And obviously those guys are 2 of the greatest shooters of all time. I'm not trying to say he's Reggie Miller or Ray Allen as a shooter. But those 2 are the only guys that have a better percentage from 3 of any shooting guard on any of our lists. Since again go back to this like in the T-Mac episode because he's the difference on our list. Pistol Pete. I'd like to compare the two of them real quick. After 10 years of Vince's career, which is the number of years that Pistol Pete played, their numbers are almost identical, eerily identical. By the way, let me list this for you: 23.8 to 24.2, so 0.4 of a point difference. Vince had one more rebound per game, while Pistol had one more assist per game. So just flip flopping them there, you're still pretty even. Their steals were 1/10 apart, 1.3 to 1.4. Okay, and they have the same field goal percentage, 44%. Maravich is 3% better on his free throws, and Vince is a half a block better. So that being said, Vince was able to go on and have a career and have multiple good seasons after that, including 20-point per game seasons after that. So I guess my question to you is, why? With Pistol. I'm asking Uncle Doug because he has Pistol Pete on his list.
I think that's interesting. I think it's very interesting that they were the same at 10, and of course that was the end of Pete's career.
Right.
And Vince did go on to have some good seasons, but he also had some seasons that weren't as good and brought the averages down.
Well,
which is kind of what I'm looking at. I'm a big numbers guy because we said earlier I'm big into math. I'm a big numbers guy. So when I start looking at the average points, it had dropped by the time he was done. And that, again, maybe is a question we need to have at some point is how do we address the career length versus, what it does to your averages versus what it does to your ranks overall. I'll let you finish, and I got a couple other things to talk about. But yeah, no, I like that. I like the comparison at 10 years. They were very, very close.
Very close. No, honestly, I was going to bring something similar up to what you just said, Uncle Doug. Of this is like the third or fourth guy we've run into this problem who he just stuck around for so stinking long, and now his career averages are not impressive at all. If I said 16, 4, and 3, you're like, well, 16, 4, and 3. I mean, that's a like a role player almost, So it's not impressive, but if you break him down, almost like I did T-Mac last week, if you break him down at like 10 years, 12 years, even at 15 years, his career numbers are very nice. But it's when you get to 22, because he just kept going and kept going and kept going, like Robert Parrish-esque, like we talked about in his episode. He kept dragging them down and dragging them down. Now, at the end of his career, he never reached the point of Robert Parrish where he sat on the bench and didn't really play. He was always in the rotation. He was always playing, averaging 7, 3, and 1 or something like that, as a 8th, 9th guy. That's why he always played on lesser teams. He said that in an interview a couple years ago where, no, I don't want to just sit on the bench behind a bunch of guys and never play. I want to bring something to the teams I play with. That's why he played for the Hawks and the Grizzlies and teams that weren't great, and he thought he could tutor young guys, which Vince Carter has a very good reputation around the league, and a very good reputation amongst most NBA fans I know. I mean, I know Wade's a Vince Carter fanatic. I don't know if we've said this on air before. That's Wade's all-time favorite player is Vince Carter.
Oh.
So, but I mean, do you guys have anything negative to say about Vince Carter as far as like him as a person? Or
nope.
No.
I mean,
no.
Yeah,
I love Vince.
Yeah, it's an interesting case. I don't know exactly what the answer is because not that I think it is the only thing by any means, but I do think primes are important. But longevity to an extent is important. 22 years is extreme. We can't use that as a formula because it's really Robert Parrish, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Vince Carter, and everybody else fails. But
like those last 5 seasons, he literally comes in, plays about 10, 15 minutes, pretty much just spots up for open threes. That's pretty much about the extent of what he did, which drug his field goal percentage down because he's literally just shooting threes pretty much. He lost the ability to drive to the basket a lot, or he could post up and do a little old man game down low if he got someone small on him. But I mean, yeah, about a 5 year. I can't think of the right word. About 5 years, that's pretty much what he did. Came in, spot up threes, didn't really 10, 15 minutes a game ish, and it drug his stats down quite a bit because he's playing enough to where it affects the stats enough.
Because when you're talking per game, it doesn't matter if you played 1 minute in the game or 40 minutes in the game. It still counts as the game and does what it does to your averages.
And the big one was the field goal percentage because those last few seasons, his field goal percentage sucks because all he's doing is shooting threes.
He shot 35% from the field his last year.
Yeah, he's literally just jacking up threes the whole time. I mean, he couldn't drive to the basket very well at that point. So
yeah, you're looking at 2 years in Atlanta, a year in Sacramento, 3 years in Memphis, and probably his last year in Dallas, where he's in that mode. He had a couple of decent seasons in Dallas and the year in Orlando and the year in Phoenix, where he was still solid. He wasn't a superstar anymore. He wasn't all-star anymore, but he was still good.
Like 16 points a game or something like that.
Yeah.
Then he slowly transitions to the 10, 15 minutes a game guy that just does a couple things, pretty much just out there for shooting.
So I do have a quick question, though, because we just mentioned Dallas. Vince missed Dallas's championship run by 1 season. He signed there the year after they won. Does a championship, although not as a star, as a role player, does that make a difference to his legacy?
I guess it depends on how big a role is.
Yeah. I want to know his role.
If he's
doesn't
a sixth
hurt.
man,
Not that he's going to help it a little bit, but I want to know what role he plays.
if he's a sixth man, I would say it helps a little. If he's anything probably below the sixth man, it's not going to do much. I don't think. I mean, it's, yeah, in my opinion at least.
Well, that's my argument. Is anybody Drew? You got anything?
No, not really much. To be honest. I don't have anything against Vince Carter, really. I just think, I don't know, guys at the bottom of my list are, I think, just a little bit better than Knowles.
Who are those guys?
Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, and James Harden, which I know you have Reggie and Ray. But, oh, yeah, we talked about
the Harden argument is coming.
It's coming soon, so I'm not going to say much. So we talked about it a little bit with T-Mac.
I'm hoping it comes sooner than later. Please bring it on. Oh, God.
Me and Wade will be ready.
I do have a question for Wade.
Yeah.
I want to hear Wade's why Vince is not on your list, because I know how much you love Vince. Like when you guys were kids, it was Penny for Alex, and it's always been Vince for you.
Indeed.
And I loved watching Vince at North Carolina. And I gotta admit, I kind of lost track of him sometimes in the NBA because he bounced around. But he was amazing.
It was just insane to think about. He played last season.
I know.
Well,
Last season.
And there was some discussion he might play this year.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, before I get into why he's on my list, I came across a couple of crazy stats, and one is involving his longevity. Vince Carter played so long that he's either played with or against 38% of all the players who ever played in the NBA. That's insane. It's absolutely insane. He played, 22 years?
22.
23? Yeah. And then he is one of 5 players in history to score more than 25,000 points, grab 5,000 rebounds, 4,000 assists, and have over 500 3-pointers made.
Can you say the beginning of that again? He's one of what?
One of 5
One of 5.
players with 25,000 points, 5,000 boards, 4,000 assists, and 500 threes. The only other people to ever do it are Jordan, Kobe, Paul Pierce, and LeBron. So it's, I heard this crazy stat, but part of it's eluding me. He's the only player ever to have over 2,000 threes, and I can't remember if it was blocks or dunks. He has a surprising amount of blocks in his career, and obviously he played for 1,400 years. or if it was dunks. But he's like the only player to ever do it. I think it might have been dunks, 3-pointers and dunks. But I kind of ruined that because I can't remember the exact end of the stat. But
Well, I'm not gonna lie. My heart is fluttering right now. I'm a little flushed. I'm just so excited because now I know what it feels like to be Ray. I just say I like a guy, and Wade makes my case. Like Wade's
There
like,
you go.
"Hey, I like him," and Wade's like, "Yeah, I got you."
yeah,
And I just sit over here and listen to Wade talk. I kind of like this.
yeah. Well, you knew I wasn't saying bad about Vince Carter.
So why?
That's why I asked.
Wade is finally on Alex's side for once.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, before we get off track again, when I made my list, Vince Carter was on it. He was, I think, number 10. I think on my shooting guards, and I forgot a couple players, and I reshuffled it around, and I was messing around with 9 and 10, and I think I put someone down for 9. I think it was T-Mac. And then I was sitting there with 10. I was going to put Vince down, and then I just got to thinking, and pretty much I didn't want to end up pretty much having to go through what you went through 2 episodes ago with T-Mac, where you're just kind of, I don't know, you love the person so much, and you just, I don't know, you get all fired up, and you just, I was just like, I didn't want to be biased. So I just decided to go a different route, and I put Reggie Miller at 10.
Well,
Fair enough.
yeah.
So,
Thank you very much.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to throw out a couple things. Again, I like Vince. I loved watching Vince do those things. And the bottom of my shooting guards, I threw in Pistol. He was 10. As my old guy, which I did on several things, and we've had that discussion. But there was a couple other guys down there. T-Mac was my 11. I said that in one of the earlier episodes. But Vince, and I had a couple other guys fighting for 12. Think back to Mitch Richmond. Okay. Mitch, you're talking assists. It was 3-1 for Vince, 3-5 for Mitch. Shooting percentage, 435 to 455. Rebounds, Vince beating 4.3 to 3.9. Steals, 1 to 1.2. Points, Mitch averaged 21 to what we've been through with Vince. And so we discussed
Mitch
already.
averaged 21 for his career.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Mitch
I
had
know.
that run there where he was averaging.
He was.
No, I
loaded
knew
mid-20s.
Mitch
Yeah,
scored,
long
but
time.
at the end of his career, he was garbage.
Right.
Yes. He was limping around on bad knees and wasn't doing a whole lot
Didn't he finally get a title
with the LA.
hiding on the Laker bench?
Yeah,
I mean, we
he
never saw it.
It was Rice the first one, and Richmond came in the
Yeah.
second
Yeah.
one, Ryder the third.
Right. Yeah.
I've been
And,
watching old Laker DVD.
Yeah. That's right.
Do you have Mitch's stats written down?
Yeah.
How do their primes add up?
Well, I don't have the primes. I just have the total for the
Ray,
for the
can you-
career.
Can you
That'd
pull up
be a good comparison.
Mitch Richmond real quick?
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
'Cause they're both dominant scorers on some pretty
Right.
interesting teams.
I don't know the answer to this either, because like we discussed in the Mullen episode, although they scored a lot of points and they were famous, Run TMC had a losing record.
Right.
Did Richmond ever take a team on a playoff run, or did he do
I-
anything? Or
I mean, he was with Golden State. He was with Sacramento. That short time with the Lakers. I'm not sure. where
and
else.
he was was it Washington between Sacramento and the Lakers? I think it was
Yeah.
Washington.
Yeah,
was real
3
brief,
years
though,
in
wasn't it?
Washington.
Yeah, Washington.
Okay. There you go.
Oh, you got to pull up now, Ray. What's his numbers look like in his prime?
Let's see here. 22, 22, 23, 23, 21,
I think Vince
23,
peaks out at 28 or 29. at a
I've
certain
got
Yeah.
I've
point.
got Vince's in front of me.
and then Sacramento, there's a good year, 25.9. And then one great year in Los Angeles of 4.1.
Yeah,
Like I said, he was hiding on the bench, but he got his title.
Vince has 2 seasons of 27. He's 27, 6 and 4, 27, 5 and 4, and in 2 seasons when he was in Toronto.
He got one of those New Jersey years. I thought he was above 25 too. He had a couple of New Jersey ones. I thought were really high.
He had some other.
Yeah, 25, 24,
Yeah.
21.
Well, actually,
20.
his first year in New Jersey, I believe, but it's a split year because he starts off the year with the Raptors, and
Yeah.
he's kind of tanking it because he's not getting along with management and wants out. So he's playing pretty crappy for the first part of the season, and then he goes to New Jersey and averages like 30 points a game for the rest of the season. It's pretty nuts. I have it pulled up actually.
Well, the reason I asked about Richmond playoff stuff was, okay, so remember the year that Iverson took that 76ers team to the finals to play the Lakers?
Right, yeah.
They beat Vince and the Raptors in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Oh, okay. I didn't remember that.
And in New Jersey, they were knocked out of the playoffs by Shaq and D Wade in Miami, back-to-back years. And then he was the second best player on an Orlando Magic team with Dwight that went to the Eastern Conference Finals and lost to that Celtics team.
Mm.
So I'm just saying, not that I'm not trying to split hairs here, but I don't remember Mitch Richmond in the playoffs.
Right, no, not really. He always played with lesser teams. Yeah. The other guy that I was going to mention, which it was the first guy I thought of when I was thinking about Vince, was David Thompson. Because David Thompson had crazy vertical, and he would dunk out of this world. But he was one of those guys that was the 70s and we've mentioned the party era, cocaine, and he ended up only playing like 592 games. I don't know exactly how many
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is more your era than mine. But wasn't he asked to leave the league because of cocaine?
I think he may have been, yeah.
Yes, I'm pretty sure he was asked to leave because of cocaine.
And when he came out of North Carolina State, he was unreal. And then, things kind of... But his career numbers, again, we're talking 505 shooting percentage, 3.3 on assists, 4.1 on rebounds. Vince was 3-1 and 4-3, so they're right there together. Both 1 on steals, 0.6 to 0.9 on blocks. Thompson averaged 22.7 points. Again, much shorter career. But those were my three guys after T-Mac was 11. I was looking at Vince and Mitch and David Thompson because I really like those guys. They're all exciting.
Did anybody dive too deep into Earl the Pearl? I thought about him a little bit.
He was on my research list for shooting.
Mine too.
He was pretty good. He was pretty nasty.
He was pretty good. He's one of those guys where, of course, he did win titles there, but as like the fourth best player, but he significantly hurt his numbers playing in New York.
Dude, those teams were so stacked. It was
Yes.
unreal. They were so many Hall of Famers on those teams.
Yeah. Earl Monroe was like 18-8, 3 rebounds, 3.9 assists.
I mean, wasn't he called Black Jesus because of his?
He was.
I believe he was. He got that name playing street ball in like New York or something. He was great.
So I guess here's the argument, because we're essentially arguing two different things. You're arguing his career numbers,
Correct.
as in career averages.
Right. Yeah.
I brought up a lot of career rankings as far as like total points, total
Sure.
rebounds, total assists, all those things.
And I feel like those discussions and arguments are going to come up over and over a lot.
Oh, they are.
I mean, it's just a fact we have to face. If you play a long time, you're higher on the rankings, but your numbers are going to go down.
They are.
And if you have a short career, your averages may be higher, but you're nowhere going to be on the all-time list.
I mean, this is really what it really hit me during the T-Mac episode.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's really, really hard to find anybody, including guys like Mike and Kobe, to match T-Mac's peak.
Right.
His peak is special. But his longevity and the end of his career are the opposite of that. Very unspecial because of injuries. And that is my question: is at what point does one factor in over the other?
Well,
That's a good question. I think we're going to be facing that a lot.
I think another thing that kind of factors in with that, with T-Mac and with Pistol Pete, they were unbelievable in their prime, like all-time great numbers. But the lack of team success happens with that too, because you're in a bad team. You're the one shooting the ball. You're the one doing everything, and you have to be a great player to put up those stats. But at a certain point, you also want team success, and you want certain accolades, and it's hard to determine all that, but how to decipher through all that.
Absolutely. I guess what I'm saying is like with both of these guys, they're through the time Pistol is in the league, their numbers are very similar or better than Pistol Pete's. But then they go on to have years after that are really good, while Pistol's retired. And I'm just using Pistol as an example. He's not the only one.
Sure. Oh, yeah. I agree.
But then go on to have some crap years after that. So do those crap years delete the years 11, 12, 13 that were still really good?
I mean, let's be honest. Like with Vince, like we looked, and I said it earlier. I mean, those last 5 years, he's just pretty much just adding on to career totals. He's not accomplishing a whole lot. I mean,
no, he's not.
I mean, yeah, he's my favorite player ever, but he wasn't. He was out there just because he loved playing basketball, and like you said, intentionally played on teams that weren't very good, so he could still have playing time. But I mean, it wasn't doing anything for his career. I mean, as far as where he's going to place, in the all-time grades or whatever.
Right, and I also don't think when anybody, not just the guys that played a long time, even guys that played shorter times, I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think they sit there and go, well, if I play another year, what's that going to do to my career averages?
Yeah, I would hope that's not what they're thinking.
I highly doubt they think about it.
Like, I realize guys today are more legacy based. So maybe LeBron might think about something like that. Like, well, if I do this, what's that going to do with my comparison to MJ? Maybe he does think of stuff like that. LeBron's still playing at a very high level in year 18, so that's not the case, but maybe it will be in a couple of years, because regardless of what LeBron's doing, Father Time is undefeated. He will get old eventually. So maybe in year 22,
the kind of minutes he's playing this year, it may catch him sooner than later.
Yeah. And real quick, before we get too far away, I looked up Earl Monroe, and it's pretty impressive. His first few years in the league, he's averaging 24, 26, 23, 21. And it gets a little messy with some injuries where he doesn't really play a lot. And he comes back with the Knicks, 15, 14, 21, just under 21, 20. And then he's getting older. He had some injuries. And then it goes down to 17, 12, and 7. He retires. But pretty good peak. But yeah, I just want to bring that up. Sorry.
No, I'll be 100% honest. I wasn't prepared to talk about Earl Pearl today. So,
Nope.
I did. Look, he was on my list of guys I researched for the shooting guard position, but I don't have that stuff sitting in front of me, so I don't have a lot of info on Earl Pearl right now.
He's got some decent accomplishments too. Obviously, Hall of Fame, 4-time All-Star, NBA champ, All-NBA team, All-Rookie team, Rookie of the Year. So
he was a really good player. I mean, really, shooting guards, we've had some pretty good guys that we're talking about.
Yeah. So, as our shooting guard list, we all have Michael. We all have Kobe. We all have D. Wade. We all have Reggie Miller. We all have Ray Allen.
Clyde Drexler.
I believe we all have Clyde Drexler. So we all have 6. Now, the rankings on those guys can be wildly different outside of MJ. But who are the guys that are on lists outside? I know we've covered Pistol Pete pretty thoroughly. That are on your list that are not those guys and are not obviously Vince
Me and Drew have Harden.
James Harden, yeah.
I've got George Gervin.
Yeah,
I have George Gervin.
Everybody has Gervin but me.
AI.
Oh yeah, Iverson. Yeah, I have Iverson on my list. Yeah.
Everybody's got Iverson but me, right?
Yeah, everybody but Wade.
Didn't you
has
just
Iverson.
forget Wade?
No, I did not. I forgot Rick Barry. that was my big bugaboo on my list.
Oh.
Was is that it? Oh, and Ray had Joe Dumars. We already did Joe Dumars.
That's it.
Yeah, because then they got Gervin, Harden, and you and me had T-Mac.
Yeah, we had.
Yeah.
Well, Ray, you got anything else to add to this Vince Carter discussion?
I mean, not really. I mean, to experience Vince Carter, you really got to watch the guy. I mean, you can listen to us five jokers talk, all night long about him, but you really need to, go to YouTube or NBA TV or whatever and go watch this guy actually play, because it was a special thing to watch him, do his thing on the court. And we can talk about his dunking ability and him drive to the hoop and just pop a J in your face or a 3-pointer in the corner or whatever. But you've got to watch some tape on the guy to know exactly what we're talking about, because that's really what it comes down to, is just seeing how special he was. I mean, he was special. He's a special player. Really was.
Just a quick question, and nobody may know, but what was Vince's vertical?
I don't know the exact
44? Because I was thinking about David Thompson, and his was upper 40s too. Again, why I thought of those two guys. Also shows what coke and alcohol can do to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
here's my question, and this may go in the face of what I'm arguing, but I'm asking anyway. One part of my argument was, we're talking about the greatest dunker of all time, and a guy that quite a few times, multiple times in his career, he shot 40% from three, and as a career 37% shooter. It would be higher than that if the last few years he didn't shoot very well. But so I guess what I'm saying is, he's a very good shooter from deep and an all-time dunker. Did Vince Carter underachieve for his career?
He was compared to Michael Jordan coming out of college.
Yeah.
So, in that aspect, yes.
Well, yeah, we all fell.
No, literally, that was the comparison. I mean, with the athleticism, they went to the same college. I mean, they had a similar style of play to a certain extent. Obviously, Vince was a better shooter, but that was his big comparison coming out from everything I've read and watched from when he was coming out of college. I mean, he had very, very high expectations. And obviously, he's not Michael Jordan. I mean, it's obviously not a failure. Anytime you're an 8-time All-Star and, Rookie of the Year and, over 25,000 points, he's obviously a Hall of Fame player. I don't know. That's tricky, 'cause I don't really know. I mean, if you're compared to Michael Jordan, you're probably going to fail. I mean, there's only one Michael Jordan.
Well, let's take the Michael Jordan comparison out of it. Should Vince have been better, or should Vince's, at least, peak have been better? Because if you're essentially, what we're saying is, he was elite at getting to the rim and elite at shooting from deep. I mean, regardless of what he was doing on defense, he should have at least been virtually unstoppable offensively, right?
I mean,
Yeah. I
From-
personally don't think Vince underachieved. I think the only problem with Vince was where he played.
yeah.
We've had this discussion before. If you take Vince from those teams and you move him to where he's got more help, Vince might have a career that you can put with Michael Jordan. I mean, I know that's heresy to put anybody with Michael Jordan, but man, I liked Vince.
I like Vince too, and I don't want to play devil's advocate, but I kind of feel like I should here. He played with prime Jason Kidd,
Yeah,
who was on all of our lists.
right. But didn't they also play against Kobe and Shaq? Isn't that who beat him in the final? I mean,
No, that was pre-Vince.
oh, that
Vince-
was pre-Vince.
Vince
That's right.
was
there
Right. He
quite a
wasn't
few years
with them.
after.
Yeah, that's true.
Vince showed up after they made the finals.
The,
I was about to say,
the Nets
it's-
were on their way down when Vince got there.
Okay.
They were still a decent team. They made the playoffs, but
Well, I guess that's what I was thinking in my mind was I was doing the Kobe swap. If you put Vince on the Lakers with Shaq,
Yeah.
I mean,
And he
Wow.
he learns
think
under
it-
Phil Jackson.
In some ways, it probably goes better because
may.
Vince doesn't have the ego of Kobe.
Right. Yeah.
He's a quite a bit better shooter than Kobe.
He is a much better shooter than Kobe, but okay. So I didn't. Okay, I'm just gonna go full out anti Vince here. I guess the biggest knock on Vince is his nonchalant attitude and not trying and going long periods, or the way he forced his way out of Toronto.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because the Book of Basketball by Bill Simmons. I just got it for Drew for Christmas. The entire chapter on Vince Carter, he bashes Carter, talks like bashes and bashes, and a lot of it has to do with the way he forced his way out of Toronto.
I mean, he did pull a James Harden.
He did. I mean, he did almost exactly what James Harden did, but half the NBA is doing that today.
Well, yeah.
So if that book's written today, you got to include LeBron in that. You got to include Kyrie in that. You got to include Kawhi in that. You got to include Anthony Davis in that. You got to include Harden in that. You know what I mean? Like, then you're like, well, do we hold this against? I mean, I hold it against him as far as like you should have done that. I don't think it's a good decision, things like that. But do we hold it against him as far as like they're not a great player because of it?
So refresh my memory. I'm not. Why did Vince want out? Was it just because Toronto had gotten down? I mean,
Oh God.
Why was he wanting out of Toronto other than he wants out of Canada? I'm sure.
I'm sure that was part of it.
Yeah. Because taxes are crazy. And
That was
they're out
what?
of the states.
2 years after the Eastern Conference Finals run.
Yeah, but it's close.
Yeah, and then he forced his way out. I mean, not like he was playing with a ton of talent there.
Right.
Um,
Now, did he and T Mac overlap at all?
yeah, they played 3 years together.
Yeah, but T Mac was super young, straight out of high
So
school.
who left first?
T Mac.
That's what I thought. I'm wondering
T-Mac
if
left
maybe
first.
when T Mac left, Vince is like, I'm
Well,
going.
I think that says something about either Toronto or the Toronto franchise or whatever it is. When you have two cousins that are really close and they end up getting drafted by the same franchise, and one of them bounces.
Right.
Like, you didn't want to, like, you can't tell me they didn't want to play together.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you let.
and
I mean-
you can't tell me that they wouldn't have eventually won together.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
those two together.
T Mac, when T Mac was there with Vince, T Mac was slowly getting better every year to the point where, like, I think his last year there, when he was like 20 years old, 21 years old, he was averaging like 15, 16 points a game.
Yeah, he was like, I think he was like 15, 6, and 3, and a steal and a half and a block and a half. Like,
He was
he had a
really
nice
raw
season.
when he came out of
And
high
then-
school.
And then he went to Orlando. In his first year in Orlando, he averaged 25. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he took a leap.
How do you stop Vince and T Mac at shooting guard and small forward?
You don't.
I mean,
Yeah.
it says something about Toronto that they both got out of there. And I mean,
Bosch
you know,
got out of there. I mean, they don't really keep their star players.
right until just recently. It seemed like maybe management had some issues or something.
Yeah, they finally went out and got that guy from Denver that kind
Masai Ujiri.
of has turned their franchise around.
I mean, and the one star that wanted to stay there for his career, they shipped out themselves. Now they got a championship out of it, but they had
Talking about DeRozan.
DeRozan,
DeRozan,
who
yeah.
holds a lot of the franchise records there, and had signed a long-term deal. Always talked about how he wanted to be a career Raptor, and they shipped him. Now they got a championship out of it. I'm not completely knocking the move, but I don't know now.
Well, I think that one, I think you can kind of somewhat defend. Because they obviously they built up to where they were a good team. They were always one of the top few teams in the East in the regular season. And then, but for 3 years in a row, they ran into the same wall and got destroyed in the second round or the third
They
round.
lost to LeBron every year.
Yeah, and it wasn't even close. They got demolished, and they needed a move up. So they took a swing at it, and it worked.
I mean, it
They-
worked, but it also worked because LeBron left the East. Like, does it work if LeBron's still there? Because LeBron wasn't there anymore for them to have to beat.
That's true. That's true. But I mean, do you think you can win a championship as DeMar DeRozan is your best player?
No, I don't agree. I don't think so at all.
I mean, because that's what I mean. You had him and Lowry, and they both had moments of completely disappearing in the playoffs. And it's
I don't know. Maybe that year. because they were playing that broke down Golden State team.
I can't.
So I
I'm trying
mean,
to
it's
think who
possible if they had DeRozan there still, it could have happened.
Do you think they get past Milwaukee and the 76ers with DeRozan instead of Kawhi?
I don't know if they get by
Um,
Milwaukee without Kawhi.
Yeah,
Because Kawhi did a good job
on Giannis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's true. And
and DeRozan
If
sucks
you-
at defense.
if you don't have Kawhi, do you get all those veterans to come there for little to no money?
Yeah,
They got Gasol
Well,
to come
yeah.
there. They already had a Bacchus, and then Siakam showed up out of nowhere. Nobody saw Siakam coming. That was
Yeah.
the other big thing too. Siakam's out there averaging 18, and which series was it? Was it the finals that Siakam had like 35-point games or whatever? And like, I mean,
I don't know.
he
but-
kind of outplayed Kawhi. Now that's because Kawhi is getting all the attention, but I mean, he was out there balling. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that was the year that Siakam started to. Because everyone thought he was a super big, raw, athletic guy, and then could play some defense. And then I think the year they won the championship, he took a step forward. And then the next year, obviously, when Kawhi left, was his big breakout.
And
Huge
where the hell
breakout
did
year.
Fred Van Vliet come from?
Yeah.
Right.
That too.
Yeah,
He's good,
Did you ever
man.
watch him at Wichita State?
No,
Oh, I did. He could play at Wichita State. I didn't think that he'd be anything like he has been. But yeah, I mean Wichita State, he showed some talent. I just thought his height might hurt him, but man, he's
I mean, right now they play him and Lowry together in the back.
yeah.
Well, in today's NBA, you can get away with it. I mean, a lot of teams do that stuff. The Hornets, sometimes they play three small guards. Well, LaMelo's kind of
Ball's
bigger.
not small, but
Yeah,
yes.
but he's a point guard.
Yeah, he is.
They play him and Rozier and Graham. Yeah,
With Gordon Hayward, who's not exactly a big.
he's about a 6'6", something
Yeah,
like that.
so you're really playing 3 point guards and a wing, and with a big guy.
I mean, we got sidetracked.
With
Pretty.
Siakam had in the finals 32, 6, 15, 14, 4, and 22.
We had two really big games. You had a 30-point game and a 20-point game. But yeah. But anyway, back to I think our original point was if T-Mac stays in Toronto, that would be dangerous. That'd be nasty. Because
Well,
then
They both stay in Toronto and they win titles. On our list do they go? They'd both go up on my list. I think that they had stayed together and done all that.
You could argue both of them as either the best player on either team, just depending on what happens in
Well,
those finals.
We
whatever.
we touched on this in the T-Mac episode. The shooting guard position is weak, first off, and second off, there's a good portion of them with no titles.
that's true.
Reggie has no titles. Ray Allen has no titles as a key player, or at least as a top player. He has as a lesser player, I guess. Who am I forgetting?
James Harden doesn't.
James Harden doesn't have one.
AI.
Pistol doesn't have one. AI doesn't have
George
one.
Gervin doesn't have one.
George Gervin doesn't have one. You're really looking at the top guys. You're looking at Jordan, Kobe, D Wade, and Clyde has one. I mean, that's really what you're looking at title-wise in the shooting guard list.
Yeah, that's true. I think with that.
So if they win a title, especially as a best player, they probably shoot up our list pretty well.
He also had kind of unfortunate luck with this happened 3 times in his career. He goes to New Jersey, who is still a decent team, but they had 2 finals appearances where they were a pretty obviously you make the finals, you're a pretty good team, and he shows up a little bit later when they're on their way down, and then he shows up in Orlando shortly after their finals appearance when they're on their way down. And then he shows up in Dallas. I mean, he's a lot older then, but right after their title appearance, and they're on their way down. So he literally just misses the window in every stop there. And then obviously in his prime, he was the main guy and took Toronto to the playoffs a handful of times. But yeah, kind of bad luck a little bit. Bad luck. But yeah,
It happens every time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've talked about what now? 3, 4 shooting guards. We got Dumars, T-Mac, Vince. Have we talked about any more shooting guards so far?
Pistol Pete.
Oh, Pistol Pete. If you really look at it, depending on what you want to argue, they're all fairly interchangeable.
Yeah.
I think you're probably right. I mean, they all. I mean, may not have the exact same skill set, but they
Oh yeah, I didn't
they
mean
do a lot-
interchangeable as in
right,
like they did the same thing on the court. I mean as in
they
like
contribute.
right. I mean like Dumars has 2 titles. The rest of
Right.
these guys don't have titles, but a lot of them were better statistically than he was.
Sure.
You
I'll
know,
say, outside
and-
of Dumars, all the guys you listed, they have very similar peaks. Of where they're like we already compared Pistol Pete and Vince very close. I mean, T Mac's peak is he averaged more points than Vince did, but they're around high 20s, averaging high 20s, getting you 4 or 5 boards, 4 or 5 assists, hitting threes, driving to the basket. All those guys were very similar peak value where you can look at it and it's all very similar and interchangeable.
all right. Well, do we want to give our closing statements on Vince Carter?
Sure.
Go ahead, Drew.
Well, I have nothing obviously against Vince Carter at all. He's an amazing dunker and he's amazing shooting threes, but his peak is obviously great. But I think playing for 22 years hurt him in a way. These last couple years, obviously playing, he played more on worse teams than what he would on a better team. But I don't know, it's just not quite there, I guess.
I loved Vince. I always wished he would have come to the Lakers. I would have loved to have him in the Lakers. But again, it goes back to the discussions we've had before about I'm really like the numbers, and that's why breaking this down when none of them had titles, and I had to get my old guy in there too. I have to battle a little bit for that.
Wade?
Well, obviously, I love Vince Carter. He was on my list originally.
The
Ended up taking
question
him
is,
off.
will he return?
At number 1. Obviously, I love Vince Carter. I think he's a great player. Greatest dunker of all time. Maybe the most iconic dunk contest of all time. Extremely underrated as a 3-point shooter. Almost never gets talked about. And he's, what did you say, sixth all time, right?
Threes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, which that's pretty remarkable when most people literally just talk about his dunking. Played with 38% of all the people to ever play in the NBA, which is absolutely absurd. The longevity was kind of what Drew said, a bit of a curse and kind of a neat little thing. Playing until you're 42, 43 is pretty crazy. But I think I'm supposed to be arguing against him, but I haven't once in this entire episode. But yeah, I love Vince Carter, and he'll probably pop up on my list at the end of all this. But yeah, wait out.
Go ahead, Ray.
All right. I'm going to mirror everybody else. He's a great dunker, great 3-point shooter, great shooter all around. What kind of basketball player, like I've already said, can make a whole country forget about hockey for 1 second and to say, basketball, yeah! That's Vince Carter. He brought a whole country to say, I want basketball here. And it's still there. It's not in Vancouver anymore. It's still in Toronto. So, you got to respect the guy that, brought excitement to a hockey-filled country for basketball. So,
Well, I will say, Ray, there is some merit to that. We're going to hear that argument later for another guy that you and I will be arguing against. Well, he's so important to basketball. We're going to hear that about a certain 3-point shooting guy later. But I do like Vince. Vince was one of the most exciting parts of my childhood. The 2000 dunk contest is seared into my brain forever. I'll never forget that dunk contest. Watching it live and the many, many times I've watched it since then. And the joke that the dunk contest has turned into. Shout out to my guy Aaron Gordon, who continually gets fucked in the
D
dunk
Wade
contest.
just wasn't a 10.
Fuck D Wade. And it's jumping over hoods of cars when half the guys in the Gus Smacker can do that. I don't know.
Give me a
Blowing
chair and I can do
Blowing
that.
out a candle on a cupcake.
At least he had to jump to the rim to do that. I wasn't overly impressed with blowing out a candle, but his lips were at the rim. I'll give it to him. And he's not 6'10" like Blake Griffin. But anyway, I digress. I do like Vince. I grew up in a bedroom shared with a guy that had a bunch of Vince Carter stuff hung up on the walls.
Some of it's still there.
Some of it is still there. So he kind of holds a special place in my heart. And on top of that, I know a lot about Vince because of the way Wade and I talked about sports growing up. So he does hold a special place for me in that sense. And that's why I included him at the end of my list. And that's why we had this argument today. So now I guess we'll move on to trivia, guys. So grab your boards and your questions, and let's get this rolling.
I got a question if I can start it out.
Go ahead, Drew.
What is the fastest someone has ever fouled out of an NBA game?
Holy crap.
Like, how specific do we have to be in this?
Just by like the minute. I'm not going to have you like down to the minute and the second. Just the minute.
Okay.
So how many minutes did they play before they fouled out, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right, I have mine.
Okay.
Anybody else?
All good?
Everyone ready?
I'm ready.
I have 11.
11. Okay.
But 18.
18.
14.
14. Right?
I have 24 minutes.
The answer is 3.
What?
3.
Who was it?
Bubba Wells. It was before the Hack-a-Shack. They were trying to do it to Dennis Rodman. They did all 6 at the end of the game to try and foul out.
Oh
So-
my gosh.
He came off the bench just to foul.
Oh, wow.
like
3 minutes?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
That's awesome.
I don't even know who that is, though, by the way. I thought you mispronounced Bonzi at first, and I was like,
I mean, probably been a little while if he was found Dennis Rodman.
yeah, that's true. Anybody else got one ready?
I got one.
All right, go for it.
Well, we were talking about dunking, obviously, with Vince Carter, and who has the most career dunks in NBA history?
That's a tough one. Because I actually came across this in my research. Vince Carter has never led the NBA in dunks for a season. So,
It's usually big men, isn't it?
yeah, it's usually big men. that lead
Yeah.
the NBA in dunks.
Those big guys down low.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, pure guess.
Everybody got theirs?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, ready, Wade?
Yes.
I have Shaq.
I said Dwight.
I also have Shaq.
I also have Shaq.
Shaq is number 2,
Oh,
and number 1 is Dwight.
God.
Here we go.
Oh my goodness.
Damn you, Dwight.
Dwight's got over 2,800 career dunks.
That's it.
And then Shaq, then DeAndre Jordan, and then LeBron.
Andre Jordan.
The Lakers didn't
Uncle
let.
Doug, you ready to roll?
Yep, I got
All right.
one. Okay, now I'm going to be kind of specific here, but Bleacher Report rates Vince Carter as the best in-game dunker of all time. Okay?
All right.
Who's number 2 in Bleacher Report?
In-game
I think I might know this because it'll probably irritate me. It's true.
Hmm.
I have mine.
Okay, you got mine.
I got mine.
I do not have mine yet.
I'm trying to think who other people would say, not my opinion.
I know, that's what I'm thinking too. I was like,
Yeah.
it's gotta be one.
Yeah.
I'm going with my opinion. I don't care. Screw it.
I personally would probably go with the old Dominique Wilkins. Can't go wrong with him.
Yeah, Dominique was a fearsome one. Very angry.
I don't know if anybody ever dunked harder than Dominique.
Yeah, he
I don't know. What about,
Okay.
what
I'm ready.
about Dawkins?
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah.
All right.
You going?
I do have Dominique.
Okay.
I put Jordan.
I also put Jordan.
I put Sean Kemp.
Okay. Bleacher Report says LeBron James.
No.
my
That's exactly what I said.
In-game dunk.
He is the
So-
most uncreative athletic guy we've ever seen in the NBA.
I
He
know.
just dunks. Like, he doesn't do anything.
He refuses to do the dunk contest. He doesn't know what to do.
I looked up other sites besides Bleacher Report, and Dominique kind of dominated. But Vince was always number one.
I saw one a while back where they had Jordan number 1, and then it was like Dominique, and then VC was 3, and then they had like Kobe at 4 and T Mac. And
Yeah, I think ESPN has one similar to that.
yeah, I mean, when Jordan was 1, I was mad.
Well,
Ray, you or me, bud?
I'll go ahead.
All right.
Load it up.
All right. Which player was 9 for 9 from 3-point range in a game in 2003?
What the hell?
Exactly.
And what year?
2003.
Okay.
Well, I threw my guess in there. I'm,
All right.
I'm ready. 2003.
Okay, got it.
Everybody ready?
No.
Yep. Oh, nope.
No.
2003.
Drew's like,
Yeah.
well,
Year you were born, Drew.
Yeah, because I watched a whole lot of basketball.
I am really loving this basketball trivia book I bought on Amazon.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'll just go with
All right. I have Danielle Marshall.
Okay.
I said Vince.
Okay.
I said Reggie.
I put old Latrell Sprewell.
Ooh. The correct answer is Latrell Sprewell.
No
way.
Wade! Wow!
Latrell Sprewell made it in February 4th, 2003. 9 for 9.
He wasn't even a shooter.
Hell no.
Never heard of the man.
He was pretty good. Really?
He started as a Golden State Warrior, and then he,
I was born
shipped
that
off to
year.
the New York Knicks.
He strangled his coach.
Yeah,
PJ Carlissimo.
yeah, that's pretty famous.
You do it.
All right. I guess that leaves me. I don't need my board anymore. All right. What NBA player is the all-time leader in personal fouls? Not technicals. Personal fouls.
All time.
All time.
I have my answer.
Locked and loaded, eh?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right, I'm good.
Ray. Give you a hint, Ray. It's not a pacer.
Dale Davis is
Ray
out.
is a race.
As he erases his board.
Damn it.
Who are you putting down?
Well, I won't tell you now. I'll tell you after the correct answer is said.
That's fine.
Roy Hibbert.
No.
He committed a lot of fouls.
All right, I'm good.
All right, let's see him.
I said Kareem.
All right, Kareem.
Kareem.
Rick Mahorn.
The correct answer is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Woo! There we go.
And it was going to be Dale Davis, yes.
Yeah.
I got to give him a shout out at some point in this
See, Drew, now
podcast.
you can tell Alex didn't piggyback and you got an answer right.
I know. First time since we started doing this.
Have you got an answer right since we've done the boards, Alex? That's what I thought.
No, I've been accused at work of I ask the easiest questions. They're like, Alex, all your questions are really easy. Why do you keep asking easy questions? I'm like, I don't know. All right, so at the end of this week, the scores are as follows: Ray with 11, Alex with 16, Doug with 23, Drew with 24, and Wade with 25.
Go Wade. Take the lead.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate your listen. We hope you tune in next week. And I don't even know who the hell next week is.
George Mikan.
Thank you, Drew.
Got my man.
Yes, tune in next week for the oldest argument we can get. He was there in the first year of the NBA, George Mikan. And that'll be defended by Doug, and Drew. So the other three of us will make our anti-Mikan arguments. And we appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next week.